Welcome God of War fans! My name is Shayne Static, and today we're going to be taking a look at the God of War series in Egyptian mythology and all the gods we might come up against. So please leave a like if you did enjoy your time here, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more God of War content. Here we go. You asked and you shall receive. This idea for doing the God of War series in different mythologies came from my subscriber Quentin Sanders, and then I asked all of you what mythology you wanted to see. And there was an overwhelming response for Egyptian mythology, so here we are. First thing is first, we are looking into the gods of Egyptian mythology and who we might come up against during our playthroughs. And stay tuned until the end to find out the Egyptian god I most want to see in the future God of War games. And FYI, the backstory on them is a little obscure, but check it out for yourselves. So the first god in Egyptian mythology I want to discuss is Ra, the sun god. Ra has a pretty mysterious beginning. One source says he was created by nothing, another says Ra created himself, and another says that he was born from a blossoming lotus flower. I could probably do this for days, but let's move on. Ra is the high god in Egyptian mythology, kind of like Zeus and Odin are to their pantheons, and gave birth to many other deities, which many of them I'm going to discuss in this video. Ra pulls the sun across the sky every day in his sunboat through the underworld during the night. He can be seen with the head of a falcon and wearing a headdress that depicts the sun with a snake. Ra being the high god of Egyptian mythology and also god of the sun, we are sure to come across him during our playthroughs of God of War, when or if we get to Egyptian mythology, of course. Can you imagine fighting a huge deity with the power of the sun behind him? This, in my opinion, will be one of the best boss fights in Egyptian mythology. So the next god from Egyptian mythology I want to discuss, and I'm very excited about her, is Sekhmet. Sekhmet, which her name can be translated to power or might, is the daughter of Ra and known as the goddess of revenge, disease, medicine, conquest, and war, and is mostly seen as a goddess with a lioness head. Okay, that is a ton of things to be the goddess of, and I especially thought it was funny that Sekhmet is known as the goddess of war and medicine, so she will slaughter you, but heal you, I guess? At least I thought it was funny. So Ra created Sekhmet for pretty much one reason: to punish humans who were not loyal to him or disobeyed his laws. So one day Ra unleashed Sekhmet onto humanity and did her job a little too well. She slaughtered many people, and Ra wanted the bloodshed to stop, but during Sekhmet's bloodlust, she could not stop herself. She continued to kill and kill. To stop her, Ra poured a metric ton of beer and pomegranate juice into the Nile River, which turned it blood red. Sekhmet, thinking it was blood, continued to drink the water diluted in beer until she passed out from being stupidly drunk and woke up about 3 days later with her bloodlust completely gone. So who wants to take on a lion-headed goddess that gets blood drunk? I'm for sure looking forward to this battle very, very much, if we at least get the chance. Maybe the story of getting Sekhmet drunk will play a part in the story, but only time will tell. The next god I want to talk about is one of my favorites and one of the most recognizable, which is Anubis. Anubis, mostly seen with the head of a jackal, and in most sources that I have found is the son of Osiris, who we probably will be going over later, and the goddess Nephthys. Some sources say Anubis and Osiris are brothers, but most commonly they are father and son. Anyways, Anubis is the god of embalming, mummification, ceremonies, protector of graves, and for a while, the god of the underworld, which we'll go over why in a little bit. So Anubis also weighs the heart of the deceased against the feather of truth to see if they are worthy to pass into the Egyptian afterlife. So if the feather is heavier than the heart, then the spirit can move on for their next judgment. But if the heart was heavier than the feather, the heart and the deceased soul would be fed to Amet, who ate the souls of people who are not worthy. So who wants to fight Anubis? I really want to, because he would be an amazing god to face, and who knows what he would have up his sleeves during battle. But I can also see Anubis being helpful, so maybe we will befriend him at first, but then destroy him after a while, but who knows? So the next god from Egyptian mythology I want to talk about is Osiris. Osiris is the ruler of the underworld, is the son of Ra in most sources. But in other sources, he is the son of Geb and Nut, the earth and the sky. So Osiris actually took over as the ruling god after Ra stepped down or was forced to step down, or however it went, and brought peace, agriculture, law, and civilization to the people of Egypt. Some say the ancient Egyptian people were cannibals and Osiris was having none of it, but this was just a theory. But his brother Seth, who we will probably be going over later, was extremely jealous of Osiris, one for being the ruler, and for marrying his sister Isis, the goddess of motherhood, magic, fertility, and rebirth. This is very common in Egyptian mythology, and kind of like only a god can marry a god kind of a thing. So Seth killed Osiris in a brutal way, which again, we'll go over later, as he was brought back to life by Isis with the help of Anubis. When Isis breathed new life into Osiris, he became the ruler of the underworld and the judge of the deceased when Anubis stepped down out of respect for his father. I want to fight Osiris so badly. He would make an amazing boss fight being the god of the underworld and maybe even give Hades a run for his money. The next god from Egyptian mythology I would like to see in God of War is Seth, who I think is going to play a huge role in the storyline, but let's just talk about who he is for now. Seth in some sources is the son of Ra, but in others he is the son of both Geb and Nut, the earth and the sky, and brother to Osiris and Isis. He is most commonly seen with a human body and the head of an anteater and was the god of chaos and thunder. So Seth, like I said before, was extremely jealous of his brother Osiris for ruling over Egypt and Seth ruling over the Red Desert. But probably the straw that broke the camel's back was conceiving Anubis with Seth's wife Nephthys. So to get his revenge, Seth set up a banquet in Osiris' honor and presented a trunk or a coffin, because there are conflicting information from multiple sources, but anyway, Seth was going to give the trunk or the coffin to anyone who would fit in it perfectly. No one fit except Osiris, and when Osiris laid down, Seth slammed the top shut, nailed it, and threw it into the Nile to drown Osiris. Isis found Osiris' body, but Seth found out and chopped it up into a lot of pieces. Some say 14, others say 72, but anyway, and scattered them across Egypt. So moving on from that happy subject, Seth then became active ruler in Egypt after the death of Osiris, but not forever. So who wants to take on the god who killed his own brother for the throne of the Egyptian gods? The next god from Egyptian mythology that I want to see in God of War is Sobek. Sobek is the god of crocodiles, fertility, military power, and in most sources, the creator of the Nile River. Now, being the god of crocodiles, obviously he is most likely seen with the head of a crocodile. Go figure. Now, the origins of Sobek is kind of blurred between sources. In some, he was one of the creator gods and was alive through the entirety of Egyptian mythology. In others, he is the son of Seth, but this can go either way. I kind of like him being the son of Seth, the chaos god, which makes more sense to me due to the fact that crocs can be very chaotic. Makes sense to me, but moving on from here. Sobek also plays in the story of Osiris' death, by helping Isis find the parts of Osiris that Seth had scattered around the Nile River. But in other stories, he ate parts of him, so who really knows? In mythology, he personally can go multiple ways. In many sources, he was revered as a dark god, and had to be appeased so he didn't sick his wrath on you. Or he can also be seen kind of as a loving god by giving the vegetation and the water that comes from the Nile River, along with helping Isis with Osiris. But I kind of like the diversity of Sobek because in my head, it gives Sobek much more depth. In one part of our adventure in Egyptian mythology, Sobek can be very helpful during our playthroughs, but in a split second could turn around and try to rip our heads off. Now this sounds like a god I want to go toe-to-toe with because it sounds like an amazing battle, especially with the god of military strength. So maybe he has an army locked away somewhere, but only time will tell. So the last god I'm going to talk about, and the one I think is going to play the biggest role in God of War when or if we get to Egyptian mythology, is Horus. Horus is the god of the sky and god of war. And yes, Egyptian mythology has many gods of war, and is also the son of Isis and Osiris after he was put back together. Yeah, you can figure that one out on your own, but Horus plays a huge role in Egyptian mythology and mostly depicted with the head of a falcon, just like Ra, but without the fancy head sundress thing. Being the son of Osiris, he would be the rightful ruler of Egypt instead of his uncle Seth. So he began fighting Seth for the right to rule for many years. Eventually, he did win the right to rule from Seth, but the most common way among the mythologies that he did so is probably not YouTube friendly, so I'm going to put it as PG as possible. So the judges in Egyptian mythology, which is made up of many other gods, wanted peace between Seth and Horus, so there were many challenges between them, which I may make another video about in the future, but we'll see. But after these challenges, there was no real winner. Seth wanted to, quote-unquote, overpower Horus to show his superiority, which didn't really work out. But to get back at Seth, Horus spread his excrements on some lettuce and fed it to Seth. So when they both appeared in front of the judges of Egyptian mythology, Seth claimed to, quote-unquote, overpower Horus, which the judges checked by summoning Seth's, yeah. But obviously he didn't. After Horus said that he, quote-unquote, overpowered Seth, the judges called upon Horus's stuff within Seth. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with this, leave me alone. Seth started to glow, so after this, Horus took back the throne of Egypt, and Seth was sentenced to help Ra haul the sun across the sky. Yeah, that was quite a story, huh? So I think Horus is going to play a huge role in the future of the God of War series when we get to Egyptian mythology. So I'm probably going to make a video on that as well, but a small spoiler, I think that Horus will either be the main antagonist trying to win back the throne of Egypt, or maybe not be in the game at all and represented by another character. But who knows, as of right now, it's all up in the air, and God knows what's going to happen between the ears of that genius Cory Barlog. So these are the gods I am most excited to see in the God of War series. Which of these gods are your favorite? Or did I not mention your favorite at all? Tell me in the comments down below, and let's discuss it. My name is Shayne Static, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.